Hello, Mike. My name is Blaze Sanders. I'm a member of the NASA Robotics Academy at Marshall Space Flight Center and first year graduate student at Johns Hopkins studying electrical engineering. I have a two-part question. The first is, were you afraid of puncturing your suit when you yanked the handrail off the Hubble telescope during your last mission? And could you clarify what happens to the human body when it is exposed to the vacuum of space? On why a NASA website that I found states that you become unconscious after 15 to 30 seconds. I already know you don't explode, your blood doesn't boil, and then it would take hours to freeze, and that so long as you breathe out, your lungs don't explode. So I guess my question is, why only 15 to 30 seconds? It seems like the oxygen in your blood and thus brain would last a lot longer than that. All right, thanks.
All right, Blaze, thanks very much for your question, and I'm impressed by your resume and your work at Johns Hopkins and in Huntsville, and I wish you the best of luck. I hope you continue to work with the space program. We could use all the help we can get, so I'm very glad that you're interested in what you're interested in. It sounds great. Your question about was I worried pulling the handrail off, which you see in the movie, and was I worried about puncturing my suit? Well, it was a concern. I wanted to get that handrail out of the way so we could repair the instrument I was working on, but at the same time, I didn't want to create a bigger problem for myself and for everybody else concerned, which was to puncture my suit. So what we did is we taped before I pulled it off. I taped the bottom of the handrail. There was one screw that was left that needed to be broken off, and I taped the bottom of it so that any pieces of metal that might have came up off of that handrail when I ripped it off would be contained within the tape. So this was not shown in the movie, but I used a lot of tape that we had, space tape, to tape the bottom of to try to contain all the debris that might cause a problem. So that alleviated most of the concern. And then the other thing I did is I didn't just yank it off. What I did is I kind of yielded it. I gave it a couple tugs. And you see this in the movie. I didn't just give it one big one. I gave it a few to start yielding the bolt, and then so it would break off as cleanly as possible, because I was concerned about throwing debris up into me or my buddy, but also I didn't want any debris getting into the telescope. So I really felt that it was very safe what I was doing, but I wanted to make sure we limited the amount of debris as really not to contaminate the telescope more than I was worried for my own safety. And then the puncture of the suit is a real problem. If it happens, and we do inspections. What we found particularly vulnerable is our gloves. So we do inspections of our gloves every so often during a spacewalk to make sure we don't have any rips or tears. And if you were to get a tear, even a small tear in your glove, there are many layers to the suit. We have 7 layers to the suit, and what you don't want to do is get down into the bladder and then get a hole there. If you get a hole in the bladder, because you're in a pressurized suit, the air will escape. And then you're in a bit of a trouble where you've got to come inside. You can't continue your spacewalk. If you were to get a really big hole, your other question is what happens to you if you get a big hole, and why you only have, I think you mentioned 15 to 30 seconds. I didn't realize that was the case. We generally train on what we're able to control. If you get a big enough leak, we have a secondary oxygen pack, and if you get a fairly good leak, we should have at least 30 minutes with the secondary oxygen pack supplying backup. But if you had a total blowout and you were out of oxygen, I guess they're expecting only 15 to 30 seconds of lifetime left in that situation. And that's after you've gotten rid of all the oxygen in your tanks and then all the oxygen in your secondary oxygen pack. So yeah, actually it's, I think what they're saying by 15 to 30 seconds, it's after you're totally out of all of your oxygen. And I'm not sure how they figured that out, but as an astronaut, what you're concerned about is preventing that situation. And if it does happen, we practice getting into the airlock and hooked up to life support as soon as possible. So anyway, I'm not exactly sure why it's only to 15 to 30, but once you discover a problem, you want to get in as soon as you can.